One thing is to build the garden of your dreams, but another thing is to protect it from pests and predators. The idea is that you and your family should be the ones reaping all the benefits from all the hard work. In this video, my friend Greg Coast shows us the type of netting and electric fence he installed to protect his garden and chickens. But a word of caution, if you are going to install an electric fence, please be careful. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Hydro Gardening channel.
Alright, so we're now outside of the netted orchard. The orchard and the vegetable garden are all continuously netted in the same system, but the orchard is separated internally. To keep foxes out of here, now that would be difficult. This is where I've had failures before. My final battle against the foxes is successful, and that is electric fence. What was happening before is we have chicken wire up to here, and then we have netting up high. The foxes, to get to the chickens that live in the orchard, were climbing up the chicken wire and biting a hole in this net and getting in there, and then we had 2 attacks, and I said no more. So I put a solar panel up high that charges the electric fence, and all of this, I'm not going to demonstrate it. Actually, I'll demonstrate it with my tester to make sure that it's working, and put that under there. And this is just a cheap little reader, and it's measuring at 4,000 volts. That'll do. In winter, sometimes it gets down to 3,000 volts. Still fine. And that goes all the way around. So I haven't had another successful fox attack since. The idea of a fox climbing up here, getting his head through that and chewing. You can keep that on the film. I hope you got that. Tell me you got that, Patrick. I felt the spark. Woo! The idea of a fox getting in there and biting through would be unlikely. To get in and out of here without going through the main section, I've got a gate here, and I can feed the chooks at this point, or throw in something in there, or throw chooks in, or they can come back out. It's one thing to have an electric fence up high. I mean, just the point of why is it up so high? Because this is all chicken wire. The chicken wire comes up to this point, then it's netting up here. So that's why I put the electric fence up high. You'd think, well, couldn't the fox dig under here? Well, they do. They do. That's why this piece of this is here. I mean, that was a hole where the foxes were digging, trying to get in. But the contour of this chicken wire is going down, and then it comes out 300 mil all the way around. So when the fox is digging here, what's he going to find? Just a right angle of wire. So he doesn't have the smarts to think, I'll move back 300 mil and dig a hole here and get under. They just naturally try to dig in the corner everywhere. And so there's a whole series of holes all the way around, but he's never actually dug back 300 mil and come underneath. If he did, he's in there, and good luck to him. But that would be a very special fox, and if we get one that intelligent, I don't know what to do next. So I'll put that back just to keep the hole there, and if we went around you'd see a whole series of holes where they're trying to get in, but no one's managed to do it yet. If you're getting chicken wire, don't buy the cheap stuff. I mean, it's a quarter of the price, but it's very thin, and if you bend it in your fingers enough times, it just breaks, just like any thin wire. And that's what the fox does. He'll just keep chewing on it all night until he creates a break in the fence, and then he'll break the next wire and the next, and then he's eventually got a hole. You need to get heavy duty chicken wire, and you know, it costs 4 times as much, but it's really quite solid. And this is 8 years old. It's not showing any signs of wear and tear, and that's worth the investment. Same with the net. This net up here, close up you'll see it's 3-ply and heavy duty nylon. It costs a lot more, but it's 8 years old. It's got lichens growing on it to show its age, but it's not falling apart. It's had a few holes in it that I've patched, but this net has been intact for 8 years. Now, why the net? Well, you don't have to net it, but the thing is, all my fruit I get to keep for myself. If the kids don't steal it, we get it. But we don't lose it to rabbits, we don't lose it to kangaroos, we don't lose it to particularly parrots, crows. I don't have to share my food with all those animals. I get the point of sharing your food, that's great, but I'd sooner share them with the kids than with the wildlife around here. And because there's not many fruits and veggies and things around this area, I'm the target for all the parrots in the region. You know, if this net was to go, the parrots would just descend on this block. The whole netted area is basically 1 tennis court size. Just to give you an idea, that's 1/10 of an acre, I think. So everything that's vulnerable to birds is inside. Everything that's not vulnerable to birds, asparagus, potatoes, and so forth, I grow them outside because this is precious ground in here. This is ground where I want all my things that wouldn't survive if the birds were to get to them. One problem with having a netted area, apart from the maintenance of the net, is that I've excluded all insectivorous birds. So when I first put the netting over this, we got a plague of all sorts of thrip and mites and all sorts of things. It took a while to settle down. What I had to do was think of other animals that could be in there that would be insectivorous. One of them was the chickens. Another is the frogs. We put ponds in there. Geckos, even bats. We've got bat boxes that straddle both inside and out, and we have lots of microbats in this area. And at night, you'll see them going around in there catching insects. So everything but insectivorous birds, apart from the chooks, of course, are in there. The reason for the chickens in the orchard part is that there's not a scrap of grass in there, there's not a weed growing. They turn over the ground all the time, they eat any fallen fruit, and they turn over the ground, they manure the ground, and it's been a wonderful symbiotic relationship with those chickens in there. That's their home, the entire orchard. It's not big, and I get my eggs, I get my ground prepped, I get my fruit that's fallen eaten, and I get the ground turned over, and it's just it's a good combination to have. But never let those chickens go in the vegetable part, because overnight they would destroy the whole environment. It's happened before. So this whole netted structure, I was going to do it with wooden poles, but then this opportunity came up with an old tennis court in the area that they were bulldozing. So I said, all right, I'll take the pipe and all the structures. And so I grabbed it, brought it home, put the caps on, put the wires in, and then strung the net over the top. So cheap, just cement in the ground to hold the posts. The thing later, some orchardist said to me, oh my God, you shouldn't do that, because what happens in a lightning storm? You know, you're in there digging the ground and there's a lightning strike, it's going to conduct along the wires, down the posts, and you might be near one of those. You don't even have to be touching the post and you could die. So yeah, for those thinking about netting, I suppose the right thing to do is wooden posts. But then again, I know if there's a lightning storm, I just don't go in there. It's for your own choice to make. But I've never seen evidence of a lightning strike on this, because I reckon all the netting would burn and we'd lose that, but it's never happened. We've had one problem we've had, and this isn't relevant to Melbourne, it's relevant to us, is in a snowstorm, the top starts to collect the snow. And the more snow you get, the more it collects, because it doesn't pass through the holes anymore. And I've had situations where the entire net was covered in snow this deep, and that's heavy. And so these posts were holding all this snow. Now the net's that strong it didn't break, but actually bent the posts. So I had to go around and straighten each of these posts. Can you believe that? That's just from the weight of the snow. I wasn't home that day. Normally when there's snow, I go out there with a broom handle and just hit the net, and it lets all the snow fall through, which is a hugely unpleasant experience because all the snow goes down the back of your jacket. But I left one post with its bend in it, and that is just to demonstrate how heavy that snow was. Incredible. I never thought of that as an issue with netting. Lots of issues with netting, never thought that we'd have a snowstorm that big. But that's living in the Macedon Ranges for you. Now, it's one thing to net an area of your garden, but you've got to think of getting in and out through the net, and that's where the gates come in. So this is a real hassle. Normal farming gates would work, but you know, you've got to think about height, access, and netting the actual gate itself, because the birds would get through here. So what I've done is I bought these gates, built these bent posts, and there's a break in the chicken wire that comes around so that we can get through. And that's just the mechanism I've chosen to use to get in and out. There's a step here, so if I want to bring wheelbarrows in and out, I'll use this and place that down and leave the gate open, and I can get in and out. But this is a challenging issue with netting. With, you know, I've got 1 gate, 2, 3, and then 1 through to the orchard. That makes 4 gates, so that's quite an expensive proposition. So you need to think about that, and you've got to have them wide enough to get your wheelbarrows through and so forth. Without netting, I could bring huge pea straw bales in here, I could bring compost in and out very easily, I could have trucks dumping mulch. Without that, no. I used to have a way of unclipping the net at the top of the chicken wire and then holding it up, and you could actually deliver stuff in and out that way. But there are problems, and you got to solve them. But that's how I've dealt with it with gates.